Vai zaļā lampiņa deg?
Good afternoon. How's everybody? My name is Maikls Mūrs. I'm the general manager of Complexions Contemporary Ballet, and this is Christina Johnson. She's our rehearsal director. She's also a former company member of Complexions. And you can explain about your career later in your discussions. Did anybody see the performance last night by chance? Complexions? Excellent. Wonderful. Did you enjoy it? Yeah. Oh, good. Great. We are thrilled to be here today with Complexions. This is our second time in Riga. And if there's anything that we say that needs repeating, please let us know and we will repeat. Since sometimes I can go a little fast in English. So, Complexions, second time here in Riga. We're thrilled to be here. We love the Opera House. It's such a gorgeous house to be performing in. And Complexions was started 20 years ago. It was founded by co-artistic directors Dwight Rhoden and Desmond Richardson. They met while they were dancing with Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. And while they were with the company, Dwight started to play with choreography. And having Desmond as his muse, I mean, what a wonderful gift. I don't know if you all know Desmond Richardson, but he is one of the top 10 dancers in the world. Or as you put the New York Times, one of the best modern dancers of our time, yes. So they decided 20 years ago to put on a performance. So they gathered together their friends from various companies. Christine at the time was with Dance Theater Harlem. They brought in their friends. You were with Dance Theater? Yeah. They brought in their friends from Alvin Ailey, from American Ballet Theater, from downtown dance modern companies, and brought them into a room. And 20 years later, here we are. It wasn't that easy, but they had much success after that first performance, which was at Symphony Space, a theater in New York City. Sold out immediately because audiences weren't used to seeing a ballerina from DTH perform with a dancer from a downtown hip-hop, modern type, grungy type, company. It was interesting to see somebody who has never danced with a ballerina before, dance with a ballerina and mix them together from different cultural backgrounds, different dance backgrounds. So that began Complexions. And they started to tour internationally and domestically throughout the United States. And about 10 years in is when they became more of a repertory company. So they opened up the company outside of just Dwight Rhoden's work. They also solidified themselves as more of a ballet company. So all of the women have to be on point. Where before they were able to bring in some females who were on point and others who were not. It was fun, but now all females. We are a company of 12 dancers, 6 males, 6 females, and 2 apprentices, 1 male, 1 female. And they do everything, even the apprentices. They have to know every part, every step of the 2.5 hours that our performance is. And they perform. So, do you want to say a little bit about it?
Yeah. So, I had quite a long career. I was at the height of my career with Dance Theater Harlem when Dwight and Desmond approached me and said, we're putting a group of dancers together and we'd love for you to be part of it. At the time, we didn't know, oh, we're starting a company that's going to last for 20 years. We just it was an amazing, eclectic group of dancers that got together, as Michael said, that normally wouldn't have had an opportunity to share the same stage. So when we got together, we would just watch each other. When we weren't dancing, we would just watch each other and get the information from, as Michael said, contemporary, hip-hop. And Dwight's vocabulary of movement is so diverse. He has a classical ballet, he has a contemporary ballet, he has hip-hop, he has all kinds of movement that he weaves in to his work. I'm sure if you saw it last night, or if you YouTube it, you'll see that it's really his. It's not one style. It's his style, but it's really pulled from the things that he's passionate about: movement, music, composers, visual. He has great visual images. When he creates, he says that he actually has the image. It's like a movie. He has the image in his mind, and so he tries to. He can see what the image should be, and then he tries to make the movement into that image, as opposed to an arabesque and a turn here. as opposed to steps, he sees images. So everything he creates is about image and dynamic. And so 20 years ago, we all got together, and it was really phenomenal. It was like one of those moments in history that we danced for free, no money at the time, because we just believed in it so much. And then after a while, you know, we would get a little, you know, money here and a little money there. But I think at the time it was such an exciting beginning, because the dance community and the community in general had never seen anything like that. And I think right now, contemporary ballet, as Michael said, the dancers are all, we have a ballet class every morning. That's our beginning. That's what I teach. So I was an original member, and I had a career for 25 years. And then I've been the rehearsal director of Cedar Lake Contemporary Ballet, Carol Armitage, Trey McIntyre Project, and now I'm back home with Complexions, so I'm happy to be here. But the dancers, you know, really are proficient classical dancers, but they also have to be extreme movers. They have to be hungry to move into space. They have to be interesting. Every dancer is different. There's nobody that looks the same. There's no, like, you know, perfect Complexions body. You can, if you see again, who has ever seen, even on video, the company Complexions? Okay, well tonight, those who haven't, just go online and look at some videos and you'll get a sense of what I'm talking about. It's very, very diverse. Skin colors, all ranges, body types, small, tall. So that's part of what is embracing today. You know, look at the room. I mean, this is the diversity that we have. Dwight is very, very much about diversity. And Desmond, of course, you know, unfortunately, you won't get to meet him, but he's an exceptional, not only an exceptional artist, but they have, you know, they're co-directors, and it's very, very, Michael will talk more about this because he understands it better, but it's very hard in America to have a company, a small company, last for 20 years and still be, you know, be going strong. But there have been hard times, and so, you know, it's a real belief in what the company is about and what we're doing, and that it matters. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That it matters in the world. It matters in the world what we're doing. That's what we feel. So.
Excellent. So yes, the company is known as. It's been said a few times as we are America's multicultural company, and it's not something. We are only 12 company members, but it's not something that we have to have. You know, 2 white, 2 Asian, 2. You know, it's not a set formula. It's about the people who come into the room. You know, when they audition. We hold auditions once a year, unless needed otherwise. But it just seems to happen for this company that, you know. 2 years ago, we were looking for a tall male because we have some females in the company. 2 of them right now, not on point, are about 6 feet. So on point, they're going to be 6'3". So we need males to. You're not going to have somebody like me who's rather small partner. They do, but we need the males that are tall to partner them. But a gentleman came into the audition that was so special, so unique, and he was a little shorter than I was, so, or I am. So they had to take him because he was so special, so unique, Norbert. And he's not with the company right now, but he was so special that they had to find a place for him, you know. So they rearranged everything that they wanted to do for the year to bring in that special, unique talent. So it happens, you know. We have women who are, as an audience members have said, they're full-figured, which they're not used to seeing. You know, women on point that are, you know, breasts and hips, and you know, they're special talents, you know, that you have to have, that you must have in the.
What's happening over there? The sounds.
So I've been with the company for about 12 years. Well, I'm sorry, 10 years, over 12 years, let's say. I left for 2 years because I thought I wanted to be a talent agent. So my background is I used to perform. I started performing when I was in high school, and I retired in my early 30s. I went on to work for Radio City. I don't know if you know Radio City, the Rockettes, the Cake Girls, which was rather interesting. And I went on to, assist some actors and actresses and dancers, and then I found my way into the home of Complexions. And I was, as a former dancer, really in all of the dancers that were in front of me that I got to work with. And I also, as I said, was a talent agent for a few years, and then came back because I missed being in the theater. I missed the company. I missed the work. I missed what Dwight and Desmond's, what they were doing in the world of dance. And then I've been back ever since. So we tour everywhere. The company has been in, this is our second time in Riga. We've been to Italy probably over 20 times, I would say, Spain and South America, all throughout the United States, and in Korea twice. We're going to China next year. We've been to Israel, Egypt, goes on and on and on. It's wonderful. Wonderful for the dancers. But behind that is a team. We are a small team. We travel with the 12 dancers, the 2 apprentices, a rehearsal director, myself, and artistic director. Either one or both of them are on the road with us. And we have a lighting supervisor and a stage manager, and that's really it. The lighting supervisor, do we have production people in the house? Any production, lighting designers, sound engineers, stage managers? Great. So our stage manager, they oversee everything from the minute the dancers are in the theater. So I take care of everything, getting them to the place where we're supposed to be, and then the stage manager takes over from that, and they call the show. Our lighting designers or lighting supervisors are in charge of everything that's designed of each ballet. We don't travel with a lot. We travel with very small costumes and not a lot of sets. We're more about designing the lighting so that it creates the atmosphere per ballet. So, yeah. In addition to my job, I've been taking on many other roles, which is also a development side, the general manager side, the running the business side of everything. So, yeah. Marketing, yes. PR. I don't know how running a dance company is here, but in America, you are a non-for-profit type company, so you have to raise the funds to keep your dance company alive. And that is from individual donations, to corporate donations, to government grants, and performance fees.
So it's not supported by the state?
Correct.
So, yeah, it's not supported by the state.
Yeah, it's not supported entirely by the state. You have to do the work. So it's important to socialize a lot and have a lot of fans, and you have to always be raising money. And your dancers have to be raising money, and your rehearsal director has to be raising money, and the embassy has to help, and everybody has to sort of come together to make these performances work. And even being a small staff, you sort of have to pick up and learn how to do other jobs that aren't necessarily your forte, but to keep pushing ahead. It has been up and down with our company, with many companies. You just sort of, as Dwight and Desmond, which they do, you don't reinvent yourself, but you find a new direction each time. If you get an obstacle of some kind, you have to not give up, which sometimes you want to, because it's such a it can be such a hard struggle. But I always say, in my mind, what I think of in the difficult times is I know that there's going to be a performance. So the performance to me is like the salvation, the happiness, the this is what it's all for. Because it really is, you know, when you see that performance, the thing that you love the most, it's worth it. It's worth, you know, staying up 24/7, sewing costumes I've done, editing videos, you know, editing music, which I don't necessarily know, but I will, you know, we're all part of the digital age, so you can go online and almost learn how to do anything. Build a house. Not that extreme, but so you surround yourself with the people that believe in you and believe in what you're doing, and things, you'll be here for 20 years, which is wonderful, which is really wonderful. But yeah, so Christina, I'm gonna bring it back to you. So Christina toured for how many of your performance years? All the years? Yes. So what was it like, now that you're on the opposite side, what was it like as a performer? What did you need as a performer when you toured?
So as a performer, you know, because our bodies are our instrument, and it's the most important thing to make sure whatever we did the day before everything is in preparation for the performances. That means the sleep you got, that means the flight, that means the food on the airplane, that means the hotel room, it's the bus, the transportation. All of those things contribute to the well-being of this instrument, our body. And so, you know, sometimes, you know, touring is wonderful, it's exciting to be in different cultures and experience different people. The theaters, you know, America, we don't have any theater like this. You know, America's a very young country compared to, you know, almost anywhere else. So it's beautiful to have those experiences. But they also come with the challenges. So challenges of, you know, especially with different cultures, food, water, different etiquette in the theater, different way of functioning, you know. So for dancers, I mean, it really comes down to the optimum care and for the body. So that's, and the mind too, but you know, the body. And so I'll give you an example. And so I'm kind of talking back and forth as a rehearsal director and as a dancer. So we arrived here on Saturday, and the dancers had the day before off because we have the day before a travel day off. And then we arrived on Saturday, and we didn't perform until Monday, which means we had another Sunday off that the dancers were off physically with their bodies. And so we prepare for performance, which means we rehearse, it's full out, get the energy, get the stamina, so that by the time the performance comes, it's just, you know, the dancers get to kind of enjoy the ride instead of thinking about it. So my concern as a rehearsal director is, wow, they have 4 days off before they perform. It might be a good idea to have a class on the day off, but then they also need a day off after they travel. So it's always trying to balance out, you know, resting the body, recuperating, but also keeping the drive of the body. So they say every 1 day off for a dancer means 3 days they have to work to get to that place again. You know, and we're talking about high performance athletes at that level. These dancers work as high performance athletes. They start in the morning at 10 o'clock and they finish, a typical rehearsal day finishes at 6 with an hour lunch break. That's it. Five minutes every hour, but that's 5 days a week. So that's what level the dancers are functioning at. And so when they have 1 day off, which is needed, 2 days off, which is needed, it really needs, it takes a moment to get back to that level. So those are some of the things you deal with on tour because, again, we don't always know what to expect. we have such an excellent team, so that a lot of preparation has been done ahead of time, calls, looking at what's the theater like, the dressing rooms. But then there's things like temperature of the theater, of the dressing rooms. Small, seems like a small thing, but the temperature in the dressing room might be different from the studio, and then the stage, and you know, then the curtain opens and there's air conditioning for you all, but then the dancers are cold, and it's always, that's just one thing. You know, making sure the food is there at the right time. Michael, it's all, there are a lot of pieces, of course, you know, that go into making this happen. And, you know, the dancers are, nothing can happen without the dancers. So they are kind of, we hold them very highly, and we want to make sure that they have everything that they need. And then another level is, you know, doctors, physical therapists, massage therapists. We try to have a list, a local list, you know, wherever we go, so that if something happens, we have immediate access to someone, and that happens. Ice is ready on the side, you know. Is everybody understanding me? Am I going, okay, great. Good. And then, yeah, how's that?
Great. I was going to add, so we have we're blessed with the fact that we can have a schedule like that. It's something we fought for years to make sure that, you know, the dancers, we don't always get the day off, you know, when we arrive, for various reasons. But we make that decision well in advance so the dancers know. We're not going to fly somewhere like, we've been to Australia 3 times, but obviously we're going to need a full day off when we arrive in Australia, because it is 24 hours of travel time, and anybody's body needs the time to, you know, acclimate to the environment. So we fight hard to make sure that the dancers are taken care of when we can. But there's flight delays, there's flight cancellations, there's weather that prevents sometimes us from honoring that schedule. Now, production staff, unfortunately, are not so lucky all the time. Usually, for this trip, we got off the plane, we arrived at the hotel, and we had maybe a 2-hour production meeting. And then the next day, on the day off for the dancers, they're in the theater and they're working straight ahead. So usually, production doesn't get a lot of time off at all. But from my experience, they love that. You know, because you want to be in the theater, it's your love. So they're immediately in, just trying to get the show started and up and running, and because we have a lot of, which I don't know if everybody here understands, but we have our shows really are 3 acts, and each act probably has about 200 cues per ballet, which is a lot.
The lighting cues.
The lighting cues. So there's always, so you figure one act is 30 minutes, and some of them have like 200 cues per ballet, because they're creating such a massive environment, an interesting environment. So it's a lot of cues. So there's a lot of work to be done, you know, in the theater, which takes hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, sorry, so Michael asked me about the dancer, and then now I'm on the other side. I'm actually now on the production team, so, which, you know, has their different hours. Wait, you were going to say cues.
Hours are basically for production, you know, 6 in the morning till the show's over. You know, it could be 6 in the morning till midnight. Now, somebody like my job, because I really started off as the company manager, so my job is 24/7. I know there's some companies where the company manager, I've heard they have hours, but if you're a dancer on the road and you are in a country you've never been to and you have food poisoning, you need someone to go to. So a company manager, to me, their job is 24/7, especially on the road. And I hope you always get that care when you're touring, because you don't want to be in a foreign country and scared because you're not sure where to go or what to go to, because your company manager's office hours are till 10 o'clock, and you're dying because you want to perform the next day, 24/7. I'm always on call, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But I've experienced some great, I've had amazing experiences because of that also. My very first international tour that I can remember was Trieste. It's a sea town in Italy, and one of our dancers cut his knee swimming in the sea, and another dancer thought it would be a good idea to rub her cocoa butter on the open wound. I don't know if you know cocoa butter, but it's more for beauty than it is to heal a scar. So of course his knee, in like 3 hours, was double the size, and he has to rehearse the next day. So he felt bad calling me, but then at 2 in the morning decided to contact me. So at 2 in the morning we went to the hospital, which was a very interesting experience. And I think we were in Italy for 2 weeks for that tour, and 3 people had to go to the hospital for various reasons. But it was great. I looked at each experience as wonderful. Not so scary, because I didn't speak the language, but I have my little translation book, and I learned a lot. I learned different cultures. I learned how people deal with health in other countries. So I always look at it from the bright side. Always look at the bright. What did you say?
No, I actually wanted to just comment on Dwight and his production. So in general, Wallace was talking about how it's incredible the production suitcases are very minimal, because Dwight he really likes to see the sculpture of the body, and so he may start off, as Michael was saying, with an idea of a full costume, but it usually ends up being 2 pieces or 1. He really likes to see flesh and skin, and likes to see how the body moves, and so to kind of match that, he uses a lot of lights, very beautifully, very creatively, and we have a phenomenal lighting designer, Maikls Mūrs, who I think has been with Complexions, I'm going to say at least 18 years or 15 years or something. He's phenomenal, and they, when you have a collaboration, whether it's artistic or whether you're doing a research together, or when you have a collaboration where it just works. Michael, the lighting designer, gets where Dwight wants to go, or Dwight can say, I'm going for this, and Michael goes, okay, how's that? Okay, great, no, yes, great. So now they're in this place where, after 20 years, Complexions is in a place where, number one, Dwight and Desmond can much more quickly and easily assess who's going to be a good team player, who's going to enhance this team. There's no room for anybody on the team that's going to be a problem, that's going to bring it down, that's not positive, that isn't about the vision. So that's really important. The player, even behind the scenes, the people that you never see, they're critical. I mean, yesterday again, we don't know how much time we're going to have in the theater. Oftentimes, most of the time, we have less time in the theater than we would want, period. In America, too. And so what do? You have to have an efficient team, an effective team, not only within the Complexions, but now we have a crew here that we've never seen, we've never worked with, and they're speaking a different language. Of course, most of them speak English. So how do you navigate, how do you figure out how to have this excellent product, be brought to the audience? And so it really, and sometimes it's hard. Literally, sometimes we come to a theater, and because of the way things are, we sometimes have, so I don't know if you know how our day works. Normally, the dancers start every day with a ballet class, which I teach. It's an hour and a half. Then they have a 15-minute break. Then we go into what's called a technical rehearsal. So we basically run the show in reverse order, and we do all the lights, all the music, sometimes costumes if it's needed, but if we've done a piece many times, then just as rehearsal close, we run the first first thing, I take notes, or Desmond or whoever's there, I take notes, and then we say, no, that wasn't good, you need to be over there, the lights didn't come up at the right time, what about that, the music is too low or too loud, and then that's done, then we go to the next piece. So that's a technical rehearsal. And then we usually have 2 hours between the end of the rehearsal and the performance. So that's enough time to eat, get ready, get the makeup on, get your body warm, and go. So sometimes, that time that we have for the technical rehearsal, that's normally 3 hours, can be reduced to 1 hour. Sometimes less. And what do? You don't have enough time to do everything. You have to decide, okay, what's the most important? And part of it is you have to depend on the team. That we know it enough and just say, you know what? We've rehearsed enough. Hopefully everybody is, on the mark. And then we do it. And, that's not ideal, but we do it. And most of the audience would never know. And that's the idea. Most of the audience would never know. When you would know is when a lighting cue doesn't work, and that happens, or timing things. But most of the time, the product that we put on stage is always excellent at the highest level. So Dwight, again, going back to the lighting, Dwight creates the entire image, costume, but also lighting is a huge, huge part of it.
One of the things I learned from working with Dwight and Desmond over the years, and something I wish I understood when I was a performer and auditioning and when I was hired for jobs and in companies, is that they expect the dancers and their team to do everything full out all the time. And it makes such a difference. Do you understand what full out? You are, so in the tech rehearsal yesterday, the dancers are expected to perform like there is an audience of 1,000 people in the house. The lighting supervisors are supposed to go at a pace and figure out solutions if they're missing something, if there's something that the theater is not able to provide, or there's a lighting board that's different that they're used to working with. We normally try to always travel with a certain lighting board that works well with what we're doing, but sometimes it's not possible. Or the lighting board breaks, and there's not time to have another one shipped over. There's different lighting equipment that can be in a theater that they have to adjust to. The sound equipment could be different. But what everybody has to, what I always say to the staff especially, is just move forward. Think of a solution instead of making it so heavy. For the dancers, full out all the time. They have to enter class and perform. They have to start the ballet bar, the first tendu, the first plie, whatever it is they're starting with, has to be full out. And it makes such a difference because then they're always performing. I'm not saying in a fake way. They're getting ready to present the work. They're getting, and it really, I've seen dancers who come to the company and they're good performers. And then in a few weeks, a few months, working with Dwight and Desmond and the rehearsal directors, over the years, they just grow into these incredible artists. You two got to see the show last night. The soloist last night, Tercel, the tall one. When he started, very shy. With the red, yes. Very shy when he started. He's been here maybe 4 years, I think. Shy, his body issues he had, but today, how amazing. I mean, he's like a star in 4 years because, he now works full out every single day of his life. From the moment he walks in to he lays his head down, pretty much. So it's a great way to really work. The other thing I would say, and I learned this, I used to give little talks when I was more on the agent side, is it's not easy. Doing what you all want to do is not an easy thing, working in the arts. Dancers, singers, actors, you know, from the production side, you're always pursuing and working on your craft and finding that next job. And so my thing is, it's okay to admit that. You know, admit sometimes to yourself and congratulate yourself. Remember to congratulate yourself, because when you're beginning, well, most of your career, I mean, you still see, you have to do everything. You have to be your PR person, your manager, your accountant, your answering service. You know, you have to be your social media director, and it's so important. Make sure it's so easy. Social media, it's easy and it's not easy, but it's so important to keep social media apart. Whether you're doing the production side or dance, it's just great because it doesn't take a lot to take a photo and post and keep people up to date. But you have to do it. You really have to be your PR person, because no one else is going to do it until you're Maikls Mūrs, maybe. But even then, people want to hear from you directly. But it's okay to admit how hard it is. And I always say to people, it's okay to realize the end. Like, because your career may not be to dance. Your career may be to direct, or to be the box office manager, or the theater director, or the the producer of events. You could be Valdez, who's producing this tour. You know, there's so many great jobs in the arts, and it's about finding what that job is for you, because there are amazing jobs in the arts. So, let's start with questions. Yeah. Is that good? Yes.
I just want to say one more thing, just real quick. This is with regard to Dwight and him. Are you guys okay? Sorry. Oh, everybody's awake now. Okay. So what I just want, one last thing about Dwight is, as far as nurturing an artist, he really, you don't know this, but last night there were two couples that performed a duet for the first time ever. They've never performed it. And that happens. You have to have a first time. But Dwight, he wasn't 100% sure that they could rise to the occasion, but he knew it would be the best thing for them in terms of their own growth, to push them in those particular duets, which were different. You know, if you have a dancer that normally moves really fast, to make them dance really slow, it's a challenge. And it would be easy for Dwight to make those dancers always dance the way they feel comfortable. But what Dwight does is he challenges the dancer, he challenges the artist with his choreography and with them finding another piece of themselves that they can bring to the work, and ultimately makes them an even better tool for Dwight. You know, paint. Like, the dancers are Dwight's paint. And so he really, he doesn't just settle for, ooh, he's excellent at that. He's like, okay, there's that, but there's something over here that I want to get at. And he does that. And it's uncomfortable for the artists. I went through a process with him that was really, it pissed me off, actually. Because he made me take my hair down and made me, and I was a ballerina. You know, I keep my hair. And it was in the process, he understood that I had to go through a process. And in that process, I found another depth. I don't know the word. Does that make sense? So this is not just about dance. It's just about life. It's about challenging yourself, whatever it is you're doing, or the team that you have. Like, what else is here that we can add and layer in, and so that the product, whatever the product is, lighting, costuming, dancing, that it's even more than what you thought it could be. So that's just something that Dwight does naturally with all of his work. Okay.
Yeah. So can you hear without the wish to ask, raise the question. So anyone who would like to start maybe with questions, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you say some tips that the company do, maybe for sleep or for food, more daily tips, like a company could never.
As a company or as individual?
As a company.
Well, they're very individual though with their ways, because there are certain dancers. We were having this conversation actually just right before we started. There are certain company members who just have a body that can eat whatever they want. They won't always, but you know they're able to eat differently than other dancers. You know, and I hate to say, well, no, it's male and female. You know, it's really body types are different, and what you can do, and you have to discover it on your own. So we've had dancers travel, especially internationally, with peanut butter. You know, they have a peanut butter obsession. They know it's also something that they will always be able to go to and get a loaf of bread somewhere and eat a peanut butter sandwich, because peanut butter works well for them. Or banana and peanut butter works well for them. It's about finding that thing. A lot of dancers travel internationally with nutrition bars. And it's their nutrition bar that they love so much. We do not travel as a group with a food bag, per se. We just make sure that there's going to be breakfast every day at the hotel, so that we know that they're going to get something. There's every show day, there's catering provided of some kind. So there's either sandwiches or a hot meal, or you know, there's always water provided for them, still or fizzy. It doesn't, you know, we love both. Hopefully not in glass, but there's always those staples. But as far as there's certain dancers, people don't know it, but Desmond Richardson, who is, you know, has probably one of the best dancer bodies ever, loves chocolate. Like, he could eat a large bar of chocolate every day. Doesn't even know. But people are shocked when they find out that, you know, his eating is very healthy. I mean, for the most part, but he is addicted to chocolate. You know, but then there's other dancers who've had health issues, so they have to be, you know, gluten issues and yeast issues, so that they have to really watch what they're eating.
It's difficult to create a company regimen because everybody's so different. I personally am very, I really think in general dancers are not always smart about their bodies and what they put in it and the nutrition and vitamins, and so I'm always, what are you doing? Did you do that? Try this, because again, the body is an instrument, and so when you're young, most of these dancers are pretty young. It seems, you know, you think you're gonna dance forever, or it feels like, you know, and there is a way to have longevity, to have longer career, and part of that is really taking care of the body. So it's not possible to create a company regimen because it's so different, but there is a mindset around how the expectation that every dancer is responsible for caring for their body in the best way and finding the best way. That is their responsibility, not ours. Our responsibility is to assist them and coach them, but they must, yeah. Otherwise, we'd be babysitting. You know, did everybody get your powder shake? Okay, it's not possible. Yeah. I also have like powdered, I have a shake that I mix with water. I always know, like this morning, I overslept, and I was like, I had to put my little water and shake, and that was my breakfast for now. But I'll eat something better later. So it's not, yeah, we don't have a company regimen. Any other questions?
Yes, go ahead.
You talked about like when you started, there was different backgrounds of everybody else, and how is it in the company now? Like other dancers, like what are their backgrounds?
It's a great question. Did everybody understand that question? Yeah. Great. There's still a diverse background. In other words, there are some dancers that come from a more heavy contemporary, maybe possibly training. But really, I would say right now, the company's at a place where all the dancers are, and you can speak about this better, highly classical ballet trained, and contemporary they've learned or wanted or discovered a way of moving in a contemporary way. We have a gymnast though. She was Shanna, wasn't she a gymnast? So she was a gymnast. I don't know for how long, and you can actually see if you know her well, and if you know gymnastics, you can kind of see that she was a gymnast. You can see her body, how she uses it, and the shape of her body, and so that's helping her with complexions. There's some things she has to work on though because of that other dancers don't have to work on. There are some dancers that have something that is great and then something that they definitely need to improve upon. That's everybody in the company.
Do you have a better answer?
No, I mean, it's true. I mean, there is more of a, with the dance background, there's more of a likeliness between the company members that are asked to join the company now. And that similarity is their training, their ballet training. What they have on top of their ballet training is what makes them the unique part. But they all now have to come to the company with a strong foundation with the ballet technique. They don't have to be, we had a company member, he ended his contract last year, Phil or Savā. Not the strongest, but dedicated and 100% in it. He was not afraid to fall on his face. Believe me, fall on your face. That's another advice I cannot give everyone. I mean, I'm telling, dance or no dance, fall on your face. It is so healthy. It is so healthy to fall on your face because what you learn about yourself and what other people learn also is amazing. I mean, don't fall on your face, just to fall on your face. But that's what I mean. Like, really, don't be afraid to take that extra step because you're only going to grow as an artist. You really are only going to grow as an artist because you're pushing yourself. And that is for designers. It is for lighting designers, costume designers. Just push yourself in ways, and don't be afraid because, our director, Dwight, who choreographs a lot of the ballets with complexions, he's a nightmare for most costume designers because we said it earlier. I mean, a nightmare. I'm not saying like the worst thing, but he's an artist. So he's always creating, and he's always thinking, and he wants it to be perfect. He wants it to be the flashes he sees in his mind, but he doesn't have the clear picture until he sees it in front of him. You'll watch him create a ballet, and he never watches the ballet. He's always squinting through because it's a blur. It's a blur to him until it's on stage. And even when it's on stage for the first time, he keeps making changes. He keeps perfecting it until, well, he never thinks it's perfect, but he keeps perfecting it, and he'll keep perfecting it until the end of time, and never apologizing for it because why? It's your art. You as a dancer, you as a choreographer, it's your art. You as a lighting designer, a costume designer, you are creating beauty. It's amazing to see. And when it all comes together, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Were you asking that just to wonder about how you get a group of diverse people together and working, or are you just curious about today?
About how is it different when you start and how is it now?
Yeah.
Well, it was easier. It was easier back then because they weren't paying anybody, so they could, and it was. There were a lot of artists that just wanted to do something different than Swan Lake or the traditional ballets that they were. You were doing 5 or 6 ballets a year, or whatever it is. So to be able to fall off your point shoe in a way that you're not allowed to in a traditional classical ballet was fascinating for females. I asked Christina years ago when I met her, we had a conversation about point shoes, and you know, women, their feet after years and years of performing on point are not necessarily so beautiful. They might not be a foot model. But Christina said she's much more comfortable in point shoes than any other shoe in her life. And I couldn't believe it. But you said it's true.
Yeah.
And there were other females I've talked to since then who said the same thing. Like, they just feel so comfortable in a point shoe, which was shocking to me that somebody would want to.
Well, you know, I just want to, this kind of goes back to Dwight's work. You know, as a classical ballerina, Swan Lake, Giselle, Sugar Plum Fairy, you know, the ballet is very pure. It's about establishing the perfect line, but being right up on top of everything and being, and not showing the effort. Everything should look easy, right? That's what, when you go see a ballet, you never, it's all, well, Dwight, he in my first rehearsals with him, he created a duet with me and Desmond. And what was most interesting for Dwight was what happened between that step and that step, the in-between. He wanted to know, he wanted to like pick apart that area. So what that meant is, go to the extreme, I keep doing this like arabesque, go to the extreme, go to extreme, fall, and then I would get pissed off and he would say, yes, 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 that right there. Because he would want to see what it took for me, my body, to recover from that. That was, you know what I mean by recover? Like that was, and it's like life. That was the most interesting for him, because then he saw like, oh, okay, now he pulled from that, because when you fall in life and you recover, it's that recovery that really kind of teaches you something more than possibly than you might have experienced had you not had that experience. So so for me, the point work I love. I just love the world. I call it, it's a wonderful world up there. It's hard to explain if you're, is anybody a dancer here, ballet dancer? Okay. Does anybody dance in point shoes? Okay. So it's a very special world. For me, it was great. Some people hate it. So they're like, I am not, the day they get to take off their point shoes, they're like, thank God. For me, I loved it. So Dwight, he loves it too. And so for me, it was a perfect thing in my career at that point to experience his work layered on top of my classical ballet work. And so that's what he still loves that today. He told me that I helped him to understand the point work, the world of point work for his dancers today. So, you know, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, they're not doing any point work in this particular program. But there is point work, and it does require, you can't just put on point shoes, you know, a week before you're going to be working on point. It has to be a regular practice. So that's partly why we do need, especially for women, we do need dancers who have a really strong classical training. Having said that, as Michael said, if Dwight sees a dancer that is maybe not highly trained in classical ballet, but is a phenomenal artist, mover, courageous, passionate, interesting. He likes really interesting creature-like. He'll pick them before somebody else who's phenomenal technician. Much more interesting.
Yeah.
So, but today the long answer is that mostly classical trained.
And because the company is smaller, they have to streamline. So when I first joined the company, and people weren't getting really paid, they had 24 dancers, 26, 30 dancers. Because they were bringing in, you know, Christina when she was available for 3 hours here, and this dancer for 4 hours, and then they would do a show in New York, you know, so they could have 30 dancers, which is, you know, you can't travel with 30 dancers anymore, but you could have a much more diverse company. But then when you get into the serious part of the business and look at your budget and what you can really afford, and you're down to 12 dancers, and now you're really focused on it being a contemporary ballet company, it comes down to the artist that you want in the room. So I guess the difference from then till now is it used to be more of a mix. Now everybody has that classical training, and they don't have to be the best on point, but they have to be able to get up on their box. And the ethnic backgrounds just falls into place every time somehow. It's nothing planned. It just who's in the room and who makes sense. You know, that's really what it comes down to. But there's definitely a diversity that happens always naturally, which is great. But we're much smaller now, so it's much more streamlined. Question?
Yeah.
I would like to continue about this classical technique. Do you feel that sometimes it's bothering you? For example, you told that you're dancing also people from modern, maybe classical is like you are too straight, and you can't relax if you are like if classical is your first basis. Maybe sometimes you feel that it's bothering you to relax and to dance.
I can answer that. It's a process. And like I said, it's I actually was very uncomfortable at first. But there was a part of me, the artist in me, felt, okay, there's something, this guy, Dwight, there's something he's pulling out of me that I like, that I think is gonna make a difference, even though I'm not liking it right now. And so I think that I think the dancers that are attracted to complexions, I'm talking about, let's say ballerinas, they love the ballet, but they're also hungry for something else. And so that hunger is enough, there's something they want to move differently. They might be uncomfortable moving in a more physical, contemporary way. So there is a process. And there's also a process with understanding Dwight's movement, his movement vocabularies, let's say. It's not really the best expression, but there's something about it that they're saying, you know, this is what I want to do. Or when you see a performance, they might see it like, oh, I want to move like that. So all I can say is there is a process. But once you're in the company, that's not an issue anymore. It's, you know, we do, one thing that we do is we do summer and winter intensives. And what that is that, it's 3 weeks? Yeah. 3 weeks every summer and 1 week in the winter. Dancers from all over the world come to work and train with the teachers of Complexions and also with Desmond and Dwight. So there are some company members now who were in those summer intensives, and they wanted to be in the company, but they weren't ready. And then they came again in the summer, and they got to work more. And then they came again, and Dwight was like, okay, that's it, you're ready. So it's a process. And some people come right away, they got it, they could get connected to it. So again, it is a different process for everybody. There is a discomfort for some, but if the desire is there, it can come. Did I answer your question? Okay, good.
And I believe that, I know people disagree with me, but I believe that ballet is the foundation for any form of dance. Because if you don't have to be the best ballet dancer, but I just believe that even if I hated taking ballet class. My career started in the 80s. So my first company that I was with was a mix of ballet / jazz / hip hop breakers. It was a mix kind of a show. And one of the break dancers went on and eventually worked with ballet companies because he understood why and how it was so important to add ballet. He never took ballet, and then eventually went to work with ballet companies. It was amazing for this street street dancer who just was doing his, breaking. I just think it's so important because it just keeps you, keeps that foundation there, that you are able to do anything. And I learned, I got to experience it even more by watching Dwight and Desmond. Because Desmond is an amazing breaker, hip-hop artist. He really, some of the stuff he does is just exciting to watch. But there's this foundation that you always see, that groundedness of knowing, of having that core that's so strong that you can do anything. You can stand on that one leg and do such creative, interesting, non-traditional movement and find ways of creating.
I would say, I'm just going to tweak that a little bit. I would say that whatever form of dance you're doing, it's great. It will add to that form of dance if you do classical ballet, even if it's just once in a while. Like it will add another layer to whatever other form of dance you're doing. And even to the degree that if you have two hip-hop dancers in front of you and one of them has had some classical ballet training, you'll probably be able to tell there, and possibly it would make a difference for a number of reasons why I might choose that person. This is not a ballet snobbery. I'm not trying to be a ballet snob. I've just seen it. I've been around a long time, and I've just seen worldwide, and you can just see it's harder to go from hip hop, jazz, modern to ballet than it is to go from ballet to those other forms. Maybe that's in general. That's my experience and what I've witnessed. So
it's difficult to go from ballet to the other forms.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other forms of ballet.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah. Not that that's your goal. It's not doesn't have to be your goal at all. But that's just it's like music. If you know the classical, you play piano, the classics, and then you can go jazz and do all you want. If you have that foundation, you have much more possibility. That's my opinion.
Yes.
Next question.
I think there used to be the question. Yes.
Yeah. I want to ask about, from the management side, you said when you joined the company, it was kind of, there were a lot of people and they were doing shows for free and so on. What kind of steps did you guys have, and what kind of tips can you give from going from this part where you're kind of an underdog of doing just free shows to being an actual company earning money with your art?
Yeah. Well, they had to get over, the directors had to erase not erase the past, but they had to get over the fact that they're not going to have in the room what they had. They had to be okay with the fact that change is coming, and that change meant that they're going to have less dancers. They're not always going to have everybody. They can't have everything that they want. That's what they did have for many years. Was they had everything that they wanted in the room, or almost everything that they wanted in the room. So they had to come up with a budget. They had to seriously look at what money was coming in. They had to make more connections with their donors, individual donors, corporate donors. They had to look at all their sponsorships or potential sponsorships. They had to look seriously at, okay, this ballet would cost $20,000, but I have to put money towards a development director or an executive director, a staff. That's what the change was. They had to start looking at the staff side or the administration side of what it takes to really build the company. So there were a lot of growing pains. And don't be afraid of the growing pains. Don't be afraid, I hate to say arguments, but there's a lot of struggle, because the struggle and the arguments are for the better cause, because you want the company to go and be all that it can be. So you have to take a realistic look at your company, of what you can afford. How many performances can you do per year? How many dancers can you afford? What type of ballets are you able to do? Are you able to do a big production this year, or does that have to wait for next year? Are you able to bring in this choreographer, or does it have to be your work for this year? And then also, with the transition, you're looking at with costumes, with the lighting, you know, ways of saving. You know, are there ways? Because dance, when you're starting out and you're growing, you're not going to have everything that you want immediately. And one other thing I should say about that is, try never to put all of your art into one person. So, for instance, one donor, one savior, in a way. I know it's happened with a lot of.
What a donor is? No.
So I don't know with here, but in America you have to have donors, from individual to corporations and big companies that are helping your organization. So there's a company that just closed recently that was backed by one big donor. Right? Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, the company had an amazing 10 years, gave amazing work. It's very sad that these very talented dancers are out of work right now, but, you know, it's happened to us, it's happened to many companies where, you know, somebody comes in and wants to really fund your work, you know, they really believe in you, but don't give it all to them. Make sure you keep your art, and make sure you surround yourself with a group, with enough people, from individual to large corporations to state funding, city funding. Every bit of funding that you can get, find the ways. And the most important thing as an artist is thank people constantly. Generally thank them. It's a mistake that a lot of artists forget. There are, I don't know about here, but in America there's a software called Donor Perfect. Now, it's not my area, but I'm learning about it recently. It's usually the development person that handles it, but we had somebody new come on, and I've been learning with them. It's great. It could remind you of every donor's birthday, and it could send an email. Isn't that great? It could email every donor that you've ever had. If you know their birthday, it will email them or remind you to send a card out. Our past development director, he does that. He sends a birthday card to every one of his donors. Every one of his customers, he sends an actual card out. A handwritten card. It's amazing. It's such a minor thing, but could you imagine just, oh, I donated $10 to this company, and you get a birthday card every year? It's kind of nice, you know. But it's those little things that matter. Never assume that they're being taken care of your donors. And never assume that the person who gave you $100 or the person that gave you $1 million are that far apart. There's a story. Brock Seller. There's a woman who used to be the program director at New Jersey Performing Arts in America, and she told me a story when I first started out, saying that there was this little old couple, they were probably in their 70s, used to come and, you know, see her series, 5 dance companies, and they started off with like $100, then $500, then $1,000, $10,000, $1 million, over years. Just some sweet couple that kept coming to performance. So I took that, and I've definitely used it from time to time. There was a gentleman that would come to all of our performances in New York City. So after like maybe the 2nd or 3rd year, I would have little conversations with him. Then I discovered that he bought an apartment around the corner from the theater, which is pretty much where all dance happens, most dance happens in New York. And I was like, oh, why did you buy an apartment here? And he said, well, I just love dance that much that when I was moving here, I didn't know what neighborhood to live in, but I know I love to come to this theater, so I bought an apartment around the corner. And I was thinking, well, if you have enough money to buy an apartment in any neighborhood, and you come to our performances, you know, you have to, unfortunately, look at people sometimes in dollar signs. But he obviously is interested in the arts. So the following year, we asked him to volunteer for one of our events. And then the following year, we asked him to fund something as part of one of the ballets. No, this is Roxanne. And then, I mean, it's a long time, but like 7, 8 years, we asked him to join the board. And then we find out that his family has this foundation. So now he's giving $25,000 a year. Now, this is over 8 years. Some people think that's a long time, but that $25,000 could build to something rather large in a few more years. So that's what you never know who you're talking to. Everybody's important, and they really are important. And sometimes there are donors that are interesting, is all I'll say. Because sometimes people want to be an artist, and they never achieved it. Find that special thing in them. Because I know I've listened to people over the years when they're talking about donors, and I'm sure I've said some terrible things about donors because they can be a lot. They can be a lot to handle, but they are giving you a lot of money, and you have to find those things that make them happy, and ways to thank them that are special and unique to them, very special to them. So I know I went everywhere with that, but did that sort of answer?
Yes. Did you get your question answered?
Sort of everywhere?
More or less.
Okay.
What's missing for you?
Missing is maybe how, because you were talking about when you already have donors, how do you first approach people for money when they don't even know you, or you
start off with your friends. That's exactly what you do. Your family and your friends. They become your first board. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's everybody that you know. So it could be somebody it could be your advisor here. It could be, one of your teachers. It could be, if you're religious, it could be somebody in your religious group. If you're, if you go out to some club every night, or you're a DJ somewhere, or you perform somewhere. It could be everybody who's involved. And when you start off, you're not, there's board dues that go. Being part of a board, you have to pay a due, an annual fee. It could start off with $5. It doesn't have to be a large amount. And there's also the give or gift. Give or get. Sorry. So, which means that our board members either have to give a certain amount of money per year, or they have to get it somehow, which means that they have to raise the money. If they cannot give $10,000, it's not $10,000, but if they cannot give $10,000, they have to get it somehow. So they have to go to their friend who works with Coca-Cola and get Coca-Cola to give $10,000. So that's the difference between giving it. Some boards are only gets or gifts. So that means that you have to be able to be a part of such board. You have to give a certain amount of money. Roundabout Theater in New York, and I think out in LA, it's like $25,000 a year that you have to give, besides what you have to get. So I mean, when you start off, you want it to be a give or get, but you start off with your friends, and you never. That's what I was saying earlier. Never underestimate anybody that you meet, because they know somebody. They do. There's oh my God, my aunt, she works for blah, blah, blah. She knows somebody at the theater of such and such. But then there's also a lot of family members, I'm sure you all know, who don't understand dance, but they're going to recommend interesting things. Yeah, interesting.
Two things. One is social media, of course, is huge, and used the right way can be really powerful. And the other thing is, I was a rehearsal director for a young company in Boise, Idaho, Trey McIntyre Project. They've since ended, but one of the things that's valuable is to have a presence in the community. So what we did, for instance, artists in residence at the Children's Hospital. And we went every 3 months for 2 days, we went into the hospitals and we bedside to bedside for the kids who had, you know, everything attached, and we would just perform improvisation. You know, what's some music you like? Oh, okay, Justin Bieber or whatever. And we'd improvise, and the parents would have like tears in their eyes, and you know, she hasn't smiled for 2 weeks, and so there's something about the personal connection that Michael was talking about. People today, with social media, it's wonderful, but people today, like the one-on-one connection, people feel that and they respond to that. They respond to a handwritten letter because nobody gets them anymore. So when you actually get a handwritten letter, it's like, wow, let me look at this company a little more. It's kind of going back to those days of really developing relationships. That's what it is, and that happens everywhere you go. So have a conversation, whatever it is that you're passionate about. I don't know if you're thinking about something specific for yourself, but everybody you talk to, talk about it with the spirit that you feel, and that's contagious. Somebody's going to say, I just really, you know what? My uncle is the direct, you know, and that's how it goes. So it's funny, but it's also like you can be very strategic, you know, and send out this and that, and that's great. But it's huge to just really connect with the most immediate people that you have access to, and start talking about that, and start doing things for free in the community, you know. And the last thing is just today, anything is possible. So the generations coming up, they're so creative. They're like, that I'm not doing it that way. We're doing it this way. And things are happening. So you can ask us, and we're a good resource. But really, like you get to decide what the next phase of the arts culture is. It's right here in this room, really. And just be creative. Get together and be like, well, what about this? You know, get brainstorming with a group of people, like-minded people who are you know, sit and brainstorm and just like blurt. Do you know what blurting is? Do you know what brainstorming is?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because it's a real practice. Get out of your mind and just blah blah blah. Get it out and then sift through it, and then you often end up with this whole other idea. That's how Complexions started. Complexions started with these 2 men. Impossible. It was impossible to get this caliber of dancers all on the same stage. It hadn't been done, and they did it. So part of it is just getting outside of the box, and you know. But I huge agreement with Michael. Building relationships everywhere you go. Because people buy into you. You can have a product and say, oh, this is a great product, it does this and this and this, and it does this, and watch this. But they're gonna buy into you, who you are. That's really the bottom line. Especially in the arts and culture. Yeah.
And be careful once they buy into you that they don't take all of you. That is another difficult thing to manage, because they want to be so close to you. They are getting closer to the art. So there's that fine balance. But I will agree, being involved in your community is so important. It'll do wonders for your organization. Because once people see you giving back to your community, they want to be more and more involved. The thing that she was talking about in the hospitals, I loved that idea. I want to steal the idea immediately. It was a little bit more difficult in New York because there's so many hospitals, but it is such a great idea. I will push through to get that to happen someday. It's so great. It's so great. It's so simple, you know, to go into the hospitals and give back.
I assume every dancer has a contract. I would like to know more about the rules, and if there are the
to 35 weeks per year. And their contract goes from...
For this company?
For this company. From August until June. And the weeks of work really depend on what's happening in the company. So, for instance, this past year was a little bit on the lower end. Next year is going to be more on the 35 to 40 weeks a year, which is great. Guaranteed weeks.
So it changes year to year?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're trying to get more on, at least 35 weeks a year. But the contracts are very similar for all the dancers. There are rules behind everything. They have to stay at a certain level. They have to show up to rehearsals. They have to, they have to be there for each ballet class. They have to be there for each rehearsal. They are allowed a certain amount of sick days, personal days, of course. But as far as personal family stuff, you mean traveling with them?
I think if they've wife, kids, husband.
Well, we've had members. Currently, we don't have anybody who's married. No, we've had people who were married in the company before. This company's young. 21 is our youngest, and our oldest is 29. Yeah. 21 is Jillian.
That's a pretty small gap.
It used to be mostly 30s. Most of the dancers were in their 30s until about 2 years ago. So, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 females left the company. Like every 3 months, I felt it was, because they all got pregnant. All 3 of them. I mean,
They wanted to get pregnant.
They wanted to get pregnant. I'm sorry. Yeah, they wanted to get pregnant. And the one female dancer danced until she was 5 months pregnant. The other female, just her, everybody's different. Her body, she just couldn't. There was something that just, she was tired a lot more. And then the other one, actually, her contract had ended, and she got pregnant as her contract was out. But it's wonderful. Sometimes their husbands or wives would join them on a tour. And one of our dancers, he has 2 kids. He's no longer in the company. He left last year, but sometimes his wife and children would meet us in certain ports because it's exciting. They get to travel to places they never dreamed of. I mean, for me, I say it all the time. I'm from a little town, a little neighborhood in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and sometimes I remember the first time I went to Korea, I had to leave. The company left me at the airport because our lighting supervisor at the time, her flight was delayed because she was coming from another city, so I had to wait at the airport. And I thought, wow, how ballsy. Sorry for saying it, but I was like, I've never been to Korea. I don't speak Korean, but I'm going to sit here in this airport and wait for her, and then take public transportation with my suitcase to some downtown place I've never been to. And then her flight got canceled, and she was coming the next day, so I had to take the public transportation by myself, and I was on the train, because it's the train first to the bus, and the sun was setting, and I was thinking, wow, little Michael Moore from little Northeast Philadelphia, like this little neighborhood, is sitting here in Seoul, Korea, on a bus or a train, and going to somewhere he doesn't know, and asking questions and figuring it out. And it's amazing. So that's why, it's wonderful, and actually, now I'm thinking about it, one of our dancers, when her husband joined her in Hawaii, we went to Hawaii, is when she got pregnant. I guess it was very romantic. Sorry.
No. Contract. Oh.
Yes.
What I want to say, in America, what happens is, for smaller companies, well, it's normally, anywhere from 30 to 45 weeks. It's pretty good. And the other weeks, the dancers in America go on unemployment. So it's interesting. I wrote this, I have a Master's of Fine Arts in Dance, and I wrote this in one of my papers about how I was a principal dancer with a company, and we performed in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center, which I don't know if you know, but it's like one of the major theaters in America, on Sunday night. And then we took the bus back home, and on Monday night, because I knew we were going to have the next 3 weeks off or a month off, I was on the unemployment line. You know, and I thought, wow, just the night before I had a standing ovation with an audience, and now I'm on an unemployment line. So there is that kind of, like it doesn't quite feel so good, because you're an artist and you're cultivating your craft, and yet, you know, we have those times where we're trying to find work. I got to a place where some of the dancers also, I mean, ideally we want to have more work weeks. That's always the intention. We're always going to try to do that. But now, you know, some of the dancers are younger, but some of them are starting to either teach or they have other performances that they get hired for in between. So that can help. But it can be really hard. It can be really hard. I had some friends who moved to Europe and had careers in Europe, and they paid 13 months of the year. They had summers off, and I wanted to experience that. So I actually lived and danced in Switzerland for 7 years. And it was a wonderful experience to be able to live my craft and not have to worry about how I'm going to pay my rent, because I'm not going to be working for a month or so. So the contract, so dancers will look for a contract. If they're interested in a company, they'll say, well, what's the contract? How many weeks, you know, how many weeks are you working? Okay, well, can I have $100 more? I mean, there's room for negotiation, you know, if we feel like it's you know, worthwhile, but they don't have, this company does not offer health coverage, so that's.
They get a stipend. So, you know, sometimes you have to be creative. So if you can't afford the health coverage, we offer a stipend towards keeping healthy. You know, per month they receive a certain amount of money. But that is one of the biggest things that in most contracts that are very generic and, you know, very similar per dancer, but the thing that people fight for is the money. And I will say this, women fight for the money. Women make less in every contract that I've ever seen.
What?
Women never fight for money. Men will always come and fight for money. And never, I told this to a female dancer last year when she came and asked for money. This is the way she approached me. I found out that such and such made money, this amount of money. And I said, well, then you're not getting that amount of money. Do you know why? Don't come to me and tell me that person's making money. Tell me you deserve to make that money. You do. You deserve to make the money that you feel as though is right for you. It made me so angry about her, Jordan. You know, like I just said, you are so talented. Don't tell me just because this other dancer is making $25 more that you deserve $25 more. You deserve it because you are talented. So don't ever be embarrassed. And you know, you're going to get the no. You may get no because of depending on what the budget is. I've had to say no to a lot of dancers for $5, $10, and that little bit, I know it's like, you know, may not seem that much, but it's your integrity, you know, like it's your art, it's your craft, you know. If $5 makes a big difference to you, ask for it. Ask for it. If it's, you know, you need to be making this amount for your life, ask for it. And don't be afraid to walk away from projects. And don't be afraid to fight for something in a contract that is for your good health, your good, you know, your well-being. Your well-being.
It's hard. It's a hard career to choose. It's a hard career to choose.
Yeah.
And I think that you know, the dancers are always, when you talk about body conditioning and getting your, you know, physical therapy and all of that costs money, and sometimes dancers decide, okay, rent or massage, you know, or whatever. I mean, it is hard, and that's we're working on that. We're changing. You know, that the company is shifting into a new chapter, and things will change. But it's glamorous looking on stage, and after, oh wow, the costumes, you were great, and then then you go to your hotel room, and it's like figure out what you need to do, and the glory is, the reward is the art. You know, it really is. And so, but that's not to say, you know, you should, again, the mindset of dancers or artists sometimes is like, well, money's not important. But it is.
So
you have to. You have to. I mean,
and always get paid something. You know, like, I know there's we said it, the dancers started out working for free. But, you know, if you want to do a project, do it. Sure, why not? But I would say, if you want to do something, ask for something back, you know? Because I think it'll make you feel, it makes dancers feel like they're, you know, worthy of getting something back. Whether it's you keep the costume, you know, or, you know, if you do a photo shoot for a dance workout or something, or $100 or something, a meal, or you get a free meal at the restaurant. Whatever it is, you're getting something back for your art. The other thing is, it's very important. Years ago, I did a job, and I was going to be 3 months in one place, and we had to share rooms. That's the other thing our dancers fight for is because they all share rooms.
hotel rooms.
Hotel rooms. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's to their room. I mean, two people to a hotel room, and they put me with a musician who practiced all the time, and it was you know, it was difficult, and I was struggling with it, but in the end I thought, you know what, I have to perform. So I went legitimately in saying that it's difficult for us to room together because of that reason. He's rehearsing his music at all different hours, and you know, I need to stretch, I need to work on my craft. And it's difficult to room together. They separated us immediately and gave us our own rooms. And it was such a simple solution, but I, like, for 2 weeks was like, oh my God, how am I going to ask them, you know, for a separate?
That's right.
And it was my own issue. But in the end, you just have to ask for what really is right for your craft and your art. Make sure you're always taking care of yourself. Okay?
Do you have some questions?
Yeah. Any more questions?
What is the middle salary for a dancer?
In America, for like, I'm not, you know, not your American Ballet Theater. I don't know if you know.
Complexions or
Yeah, I mean complexions. Yeah.
It would be like $700 to $800 a week.
Okay.
A week?
A week.
Listen, you have
Dollars.
So does that sound like a lot to you? Yeah. So it's all relative. Like we were talking to somebody from here, and we were asking, so you know, what's like the rent here? You know, how is an apartment? And he was like, oh, you know, like 300, 400. And we were like, wow, what? But then he's like, but you have to. It's all relative.
Yes.
Because you know, in New York, the dance. That is nothing. Rent is $1,400 a month.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 14 to you know,
In
$1,800 a month.
major like places of Manhattan where you want to live, you know, some neighborhoods I could never afford to live
Dancers are,
on a
you know,
dancer
3
salary.
people living in an apartment. So it's all relative. So some people live outside of the city so that they can get a nice apartment or a nice house, and then they commute, they take the train. So, you know, you make those choices, but don't forget, that's not all year.
Yes, that's the other thing.
So,
25 to 35 weeks.
you know, so spread it out, and it might end up, I don't know, you know.
It may end up being
It's all,
20,000 a year, which is low for it.
it's actually.
And then you're paying $1,400 a month in rent. Plus you want to eat.
Now this is
Plus
what
you want to look
this is
good.
what this, that's what this
Like
company.
myself.
Yeah, but you know, there are all kinds of, if you go to, you know, American Ballet Theater or Alvin Ailey, you know, very different, so.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Any other questions? Well, seems to answer.
Okay, great.
And we are also very, very good at that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can.
How much?
She's a question for you.
dismissed, but I have a question. So is anybody, why are you here? No, really, like what's the thing you you're here by choice, right? Okay. No, I didn't know this was like a class this was like, so what's the big question that you have out there in general? Because we don't, tell us something that we might not know about the culture here or what you guys are dealing with. Do you know what I mean? Is that too big of a question?
What's it like to be a dancer here?
Well, some of them are dancing hard.
I know the front two areas here are mainly dancers, right? Yes. And then the next part, of course, is more lighting, technicians. So is it more freelance? For everybody?
Is it freelance, like you do your own independent contractor, or
Yeah, I guess we don't have that much like companies in Latvia. We have like dance studios, and then we start at a very young age. You might get to the when you graduate or something, you can get to the company. But it's not in terms that you say it's not that kind of company that you.
it's a profession?
It's probably like some projects, like one summer project, musical, or like something like that. But it's not like for several years.
It's not a career.
Not really.
Okay.
So when you graduate as a dancer, what's your dream? Oh, sorry.
New experience. That's big for us. You're a student.
What would like to, travel abroad to
You know, one thing that you might consider doing for the dancers, if you see a dance company coming here like Complexions, and find a way to somehow get in touch with them and ask if you can take company class, for instance. It depends on what your level is, but sometimes you can be exposed to because I don't know, do you just have one kind of dance festival, this is it? Or do you have dance throughout the year? Do you have companies that come throughout the year? Oh, that makes it hard. Oh, right. There's a master class we're doing. Do you know that we're doing a master class today?
Yeah.
Okay.
You all take it?
You're going to take it? Some of us. Okay. Yeah, I get it. It's a different.
And the other thing is, even with lighting and, from more the production side, we've had people call us and ask if they can shadow our stage manager or just shadow the whole production day.
You know what shadowing means? Okay, following.
What's the word?
Yeah.
We definitely have had that, which has been really great and helpful. I know from people who have done it in the past. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Anything else just to share? Because I'm curious. For me, I'm so intrigued with this culture.
Well, often it's after your craft, while you do something other on the side. So you can you just work your weekdays, and then after your workday is over, you might go and master your craft for a few hours and something like that. It's not like day in and day out you do dance.
Yeah.
It's rarely here.
Yeah.
It's too if you're like a ballet dancer in opera
Yeah.
house.
Sure.
Or we have like what's it called in English? The school of dance.
Academies.
The academy,
Yes.
But they also have like you can start like every 4 years.
Yeah.
So basically they take you every 4 years.
Yeah.
The audition.
Yeah. Interesting. Seems like some of you need to get together and create like an ensemble.
Yeah.
No, really, and then create work, and then just like start bringing it into schools or things where people will say, "Wow, we want to see more music." Anyway, you can go. I'm just curious. Wait, thank you guys. It's my pleasure. Thank you guys.
Can you hear that? So